Hi, I'm Hillary.
And I'm Brenda.
And we work here at RCAL, the Resource Center for Accessible Living. And today we're going to talk about Etp, the Employee Training Program.
Hillary, I need lots of information on Etp. I don't really have enough. Please help me.
That's a really common question I get is,
Okay.
What is Etp? Most people don't know about it. And if you do, it can be a little complicated, feel really overwhelming, and sometimes feel like, is it really worth all of the work that goes into it just to get a job?
So how do you start to get into the Etp process?
So the first place to start is to not be eligible for Access VR services. Crazy as it seems, Access VR is New York State's answer to vocational rehabilitation services and are funded through RSA, which is a federal office for the Rehabilitation Services Administration.
Okay.
Etp, on the other hand, is funded through a person's Medicaid. So you have to be OPWDD eligible and be receiving Medicaid through the home and community-based waiver. So what does that mean? It means that you can't be eligible for Access VR because Medicaid is a payer of last resort. So you have to first be ineligible for money from Access VR before you can be eligible for Etp.
Oh, that makes sense now. Okay.
So let's suppose, how do I know which one I'm eligible for? Well, if you're working with a care manager or a vocational services provider, such as RCAL, and they've determined that you need more support than is available through Access VR because of your disability and you're OPWDD eligible, meaning that you have a developmental disability before the age of 21, then you can enroll in the Etp program. This should be a conversation that you have with people that know you best, your family, maybe your school if you're still in school. It could be with your care manager or other services provider. If you're still not sure, you can call a vocational agency and they can help you make the determination. You can also apply for Access VR directly, be honest about the supports that you may need, and they can make a determination of whether or not you're eligible for their services. So you've decided, after all those conversations, that you want to go for the Etp program. Well, what is it?
Yeah. What do you do?
What do you do? So, first thing you're going to do is fill out the Etp application. And that's going to be done either by your care manager or a vocational agency if you're already working with one. So RCAL would be a good example. Maybe you've received other services from us or have been involved in our pre-vocational programs. We could help you make the determination as to whether or not you'd be eligible for Etp or Access VR. So the application can either be filled out by your vocational agency or by your care manager, and that's going to go to the Etp supervisor.
Now, Hillary, if you have a care manager and the application goes in, how long before you would hear something?
That's a good question. So if you have a care manager and they filled out that application and it's gone to the Etp supervisor, each county or region, depending on where you are in New York State, has an Etp supervisor. You can find that information very easily and it should be available online. If you haven't heard anything within a reasonable time frame, I would say, assuming that all of the documentation, you've signed your application, you've signed the authorization to release information, and your care manager, vocational rehabilitation agency, has attached all the necessary documentation and you haven't heard anything within 3 to 4 weeks, would be pushing it, I would call the Etp supervisor or your care manager and follow up on that application.
Okay. And we have an Etp supervisor locally?
We sure do. Our local Taconic DDRO office in Ulster County has one, as does the DDSO office in Dutchess County. So your care manager should know who your Etp supervisor is. Once you've been approved, you'll just start a process called discovery.
That's the discovery process. Okay.
So what is discovery?
What is discovery?
What is discovery? So discovery is the process where you discover what job is right for you. So sometimes if you have never worked before, it's your first job, or you've held jobs but for some reason have been unsuccessful in those, discovery really helps you determine what jobs are right for you, what type of support and setting that you'll need to be successful, and come out with a career plan that then gets approved by the ETP supervisor and a plan for job development. At that point, you may be recommended for job development, or they may suggest that you receive additional services before you go and find the job. So a great example might be, let's suppose you really want to work with animals, and you do the discovery, you take some time, and you find out what that's like. So maybe you learn a little bit about what it's like to work with animals, and you try out the job for a very minimal amount of hours, just a few times, to make sure it's the right job for you.
And would you have a job coach with you while you're trying that out?
Absolutely. You'll have an employment specialist with you through every step of the process. But maybe while you're working with animals, you decide that this isn't the right job for you, and you actually maybe have an animal allergy. And then you try a different job, maybe retail or stocking, and you find that that's very difficult, and maybe you realize that you need some additional support, such as travel training, maybe some more independent skills. You can go and get another service, such as ComHab, or maybe day services or pre-vocational services, to increase your readiness before you go out and find a job. But if at the end of discovery you determine that with your team that you are eligible for job development, the next step is to go out and get a job. Kind of. There's a few steps in between.
Yeah, who helps you with the job development?
So that's a great question. So the problem is, before you go out and get the job, you're typically hired by the state of New York to be a temporary employee. The state of New York is going to hire you, they will fingerprint you and interview you and put you on their payroll. You do this directly with your local ETP supervisor. Once you've been hired by the state of New York, then you would start job development. The benefits of being hired is that you are now a trainee, hence the Employee Training Program. So you are a trainee. Let's suppose you've figured out that allergy, you've gotten to where you really feel like you're ready to work with animals, and you go to a local animal shelter who happens to be hiring for maybe animal care attendants. You would then start the job first as a trainee. You would learn everything about the job. You could even possibly get a one-on-one job coach for a short period in the beginning to make sure that you have all of these skills and abilities and that you're thoroughly trained. Once you're trained, and there's no exact determined end date, however, it's typically a 3 to 6, possibly 9-month period where you are in that trainee role until you've learned all of the tasks as defined by your employer, and you're relatively independent in those tasks that now the employer has agreed to hire you. You transition off New York State's payroll and on to the employer's payroll. However, when that ends, do you still get a job coach?
That was my question.
A lot of people wonder, I've done all of this work, I've gotten all this support, I'm now hired by the company, what happens to my services? Well, the good news is that the ETP program is considered supported employment intensive services. You will then transition to supported employment extended services, meaning that you will have 200 hours of job coaching and employment services, either directly with you or on your behalf, per year for the life of your job.
Oh, 200 per year. So that doesn't run out. You could continue to use it if you used it in 1 year and then you had some other issues at work. You could begin. Oh.
Every year it will start over, and it goes by the date that you were enrolled in SEMP. Okay. You did your SEMP enrollment by your care manager around the same time that you applied for services and were found eligible for the ETP program. So every year on that date, you'll start over with another 200 hours.
It seems that people going into a new position and having that support initially, and then knowing that they would still have 200 hours to support them throughout the year, must make a lot of people a little calmer on the job site.
It definitely does, Brenda. It really helps, and we have found that we get people permanent jobs. So the ETP program really helps people who may have more difficulties because of their disability competing in the competitive job market really get to a job that works for them, is right for them, and is theirs to keep.
Wow, that is really a story of accomplishment. That is you seeing it through to the end. You know that it's worked, and people have gotten jobs and maintained them.
It really has.
That's progress.
ETP is a wonderful program if you're someone who has wanted to work but maybe have felt that you can't because of your disability, or that you have significant barriers to employment because of your disability and have been on the fence as to whether or not employment is right for you. The discovery process really helps you figure that out without feeling like you need to go and work tomorrow, through maybe another program that is geared more towards people whose disability presents with less barriers to employment.
And the discovery process could bring up interests that the person may not even realize they have.
Absolutely. Through discovery, we're going to talk to you, your family, your friends, people that work with you, and people who know you best about where they see you being successful in employment. So don't worry if you don't have all the answers, because that's what discovery is about.
That's great. That's very thorough. I like that plan.
We like providing it to people. We've been able to help people become very successful in their chosen careers because of the opportunities offered through the employee training program.
Oh, I've learned a lot, Hillary. This answered a lot of my questions. Can we put up some slides with this information?
Absolutely, we can. Okay. So we could put up some slides at the end and some links to the ETP program and how to contact in your region of the state.
That's great.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.